Chapter 1702. Wuxia. Flamboyant and flamboyant. Luoluo could see the fire burning in Xiao Jing's eyes. No man wouldn't hope that his hard work and struggle could be used to win glory for the country. And this day had finally come. It was being reported online and on television. Currently, the number of gamers in China had reached 500 million. This meant that China's esports was starting to be known. But just being known wasn't enough. Many people thought that it was something that only internet addicts would do. No one would advocate being addicted to games. But if it was esports, there was no harm in giving it a try. Perhaps no one knew. In 2005, there was a champion player who wore the Chinese flag and won limitless glory. The host's voice came slowly, as though he was telling a story. Ever since that time, it seemed as though victory had never belonged to China. I believe that this year will be different. This was what the shoutcaster said as he looked at the screen. At the same time, Lin Corporation Building, a university classroom, a remote town in Tibet, an amusement park for rich kids, in the villa of the Feng family, and in the fields where the crops were being harvested. Lin Feng, Yun Hu, Yin Wu Yao, Coco, Feng Shang, Lin Qintao. All of them received a small tablet at the same time. He opened the tablet and there was only one sentence on it. 3 days ago, Qin Mo was summoned back to China. At first, he thought that he had to do some mission. Unexpectedly, his father didn't call him because of the military. Instead, he brought him ahead of him. Qin Mo knew that person. He glanced sideways and only gave him 3 words. I won't rebuild. Before the person could finish his words, he was stopped. After making a phone call, he said, I won't rebuild. Mr. Qin Mo, are you willing to come back and form a Chinese team? You can lead our country's esports players and represent China. Qin Mo paused. Me? Who will choose the players? Me. This. The person went out to make another phone call. After returning, he said, as long as the players are 18 years old, Mr. Qin Mo can choose. We have a list here. Qin Mo stood up. I'm not interested in the list you provided. In the esports battlefield, cooperation and winning are the most important. What do you think? Of course. But that person still wanted to recommend some fresh blood. These 2 are not bad. Do you want to take a look, Mr. Qin? Qin Mo raised his eyebrows and scanned the paper in his hand. One of the Spade Tea and Flawless Luoluo were the top choices. He lifted his eyes and looked at the man. His aura was so strong that no one dared to look him in the eye. This is the name list you provided? That person replied, these newcomers are performing well and are very popular. Mr. Qin, I know you have feelings for some people and would definitely want to choose people you are familiar with to participate in the competition. However, this competition is different. I hope you can look at the bigger picture. Are you sure that's what the committee thinks? Qin Mo's voice softened. Coming to me means that they approve of my choice. That person chuckled. Of course, apart from the competition, it's also important to support newcomers, right? Sure. Qin Mo glanced sideways. Let the 2 of them team up and defeat Bei. That person paused. Isn't it a little difficult? Aren't you going to support a newcomer? Qin Mo's gaze deepened. Perhaps I can guide him personally. Chapter 1703. Qin Mo glanced over. The curve of his chin was still beautiful. What is this? That person smiled. These 2 people are inexperienced but they have potential. When they get used to it, we will let them fight with Mr. Qin Mo. Sure. Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his trouser pocket and walked over. Tell the committee that we can talk about the competition when you are fired. That person's face stiffened. Mr. Qin Mo, are you determined to suppress the newcomers? Suppress? Qin Mo glanced down and suddenly laughed. There was a layer of coldness in his eyes. I hate people like you who tamper with things but still act righteously. That person changed his words quickly. Mr. Qin Mo, indeed, if my suggestion doesn't agree with you, you can choose not to accept it but you don't have to say that. After all, I like you guys very much. Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket and said faintly, Oh? If you like me, then it's easy. Get lost and I will be back. That person immediately flicked his sleeves and left. He made a phone call as he walked. saying that Qin Mo wasn't willing to fight. He was too arrogant and he couldn't persuade him. Qin Mo's expression didn't change as he listened. After a few minutes, that person was dragged back. Qin Mo adjusted his sleeves and looked at him. His gaze was faint but cold. That person wanted to jump up. Qin Mo walked in front of him, holding his phone in his right hand. He made a call in front of that person. That person's face turned pale when he saw the number he dialed. Mr. Qin Mo. Hello. Qin Mo didn't bother with him, his voice calm. Mr. Zhang, it's me. I heard from Mr. Yang that you aren't willing to fight. Is there something you haven't resolved? The voice was still regretful. Qin Mo's gaze landed on that person's forehead, watching his unconscious uneasiness. His emotions didn't change. Mr. Yang introduced two newcomers to me. After listening to them, I decided to find them to fight first. According to Mr. Yang, the old people are no longer able to make it and it's time to add in new blood. Otherwise, the old people will be attacking the newcomers. Once Mr. Zhang heard this, he knew that his subordinates had messed things up. Why did they look for Qin Mo? Did Mr. Yang understand? Other than him, no one else could carry the banner of China's esports. Qin Mo was the only one who could bring them back. Why are you stuffing people in at this critical juncture? President Zhang did know what was going on. It was normal for the clubs and teams to want to surpass Supreme Alliance. It was impossible to remain the same. But this kind of thing could be done normally. This was a huge competition. Did Director Yang not know? President Zhang took a deep breath and said, when he comes back, I will get him to hand in his resignation. Of course I have to hand in my resignation. Qin Mo's voice didn't change. But I thought about it. Miss Yang is right about one thing. This is an international competition. You can't just choose someone based on seniority. If you want to join, you have to show your capabilities. Since Miss Yang thinks that we seniors are suppressing the newcomers, I'm afraid some of their fans are the same. When Head Yang heard this, he didn't understand. Was he speaking up for him? President Zhang frowned. What do you want to do? Chapter 1704. That Director Yang's expression changed instantly. He wanted to reject. No matter what people said, these two people had their own characteristics. They were the future of esports and had nothing to do with Spade Z and Luo. They just had similar names and used the same trick. But Director Yang knew that those who watched their competition knew that Spade Z and Luo were in it. Since so many people liked Spade Z, there must be something good about her. On the other hand, Luo had a topic to talk about. He had chosen these two people because they were smart and had found each other's characteristics. Many people thought that it wasn't smart for them to say, we don't know Spade Z and Luo. Spade Z and Luo's fans, please leave. But in reality it was smart. It didn't matter if Spade Z and Luo's fans went or not. Once these words were said, they would be bound. They would be bound to Spade Z and Luo so naturally, they would be popular. Moreover, everyone would think that Spade Z and Luo's fans were jumping around. To put it bluntly, it was just one sentence. They really hoped that Spade Z's fans would cause trouble. Unfortunately, Spade Z's fans were silent and didn't cause trouble. If that was the case, there would be more than this number of fans. If Qin Mo used his main account to fight with these two people, Director Yang would definitely not reject him. Anyway, even if he lost, the topic would be brought up. Their popularity would only increase and not decrease. But now, Qin Mo wanted to use his secondary account to fight with them during their live stream. This was really a slap in the face. Director Yang panicked. He didn't care that the phone was in Qin Mo's hands and shouted, President, this is too much of a blow to the newbies' enthusiasm. It isn't a good idea. Qin Mo glanced over calmly. His voice was still emotionless. So, President Zhang, what do you plan to do? President Zhang took a deep breath. I understand. I will send someone else over. Gather everyone. 3 days later, they will be live streaming and you will go and fight. When Director Yang heard this, he was instantly dispirited. How was he going to develop in the future? Guild Master Zhang also rubbed his head. Just when did such a problem appear down there? He roughly knew what Director Yang was thinking. It was just that he had taken the wrong path and chosen the wrong place. They were going to represent the country in the competition. President Zhang thought that by saying this, they would calm down. But Qin Mo was Qin Mo. As smart as he was, he had long seen through these things. He looked up and said, "Shall I gather everyone?" President Zhang paused. "No, you make a name list. I'll get them to invite them back." President, you know it, but Dean Yang doesn't seem to understand something. Regardless of whether it's me or the others, this battle is for China. If it was just for you guys, no one would have come back. For the first time, Guild leader Zhang tasted the feeling of not being able to speak. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. Qin Mo glanced at Mr. Yang, his expression unchanged. "You should be glad that we have China as an excuse this time. Otherwise, I would have chased someone like you out." Mr. Yang only felt angry. However, President Zhang, who was on the other end of the phone, felt a chill run down his spine when he heard the commotion on the other end. He knew that Qin Mo wasn't just talking to Mr. Yang, but to him as well. For the country, they would definitely go to war. But don't even think about doing anything here. Chapter 1705. Now, 3 days had passed. Everyone had received their own summons. Qin Mo brought Rao Rong out of the internet cafe. They didn't go anywhere. After boarding the car, Qin Mo tossed Rao Rong a uniform. "Follow me to a game." Rao Rong arched a brow. "You? Personally?" Qin Mo replied faintly, "MH." Rao Rong was surprised. "Who would make you fight personally?" "Flies." Qin Mo glanced over. "Clean them up before everyone comes back." Rao Rong. He was wrong. He had thought this person would be kinder after 3 months of absence. It seemed like his poisonous tongue couldn't be changed. The journey from the internet cafe to the building took less than half an hour. Rao Rong glanced up. "This will be our future base. It seems a little serious. Can we order instant noodles in the future?" "Yes." Qin Mo was used to these people's strange requests. Feng Yi had moved into the building the day before. Many things had been arranged. Eating instant noodles wouldn't be difficult. Rao Rong knew that this competition would be different from the previous ones. They would receive comprehensive attention. But the facilities in the base surprised Rao Rong. There's even a gym? When the competition is intense, you will need to maintain your stamina. If you go overseas, you will need to adjust to the time difference. Qin Mo glanced over. In the future, your fitness and resistance will be monitored. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. Not bad. Qin Mo glanced at him. He didn't mention the other conditions. They weren't officially registered yet. The details would be announced once everything was stabilized. To prevent them from escaping. It's about time. Qin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket, glancing at the watch on his wrist. Let's go to the training room. Was he going to start playing? Rao Rong replied, "All right, I'll try out the new keyboard." The new base was huge. It was actually in the building. Both the training room and the gym were huge and the planning was reasonable. After training, they could go to the gym next door. While working out, they could also see the situation in the training room. There were a total of 12 computers. They were placed there generously. There was a distance between each one, but it wasn't too far. The chairs had been specially adjusted by someone. It was so that the neck wouldn't be too stiff even if they sat for 24 hours. Rao Rong felt it the moment he sat down. It's comfortable. Qin Mo switched on a computer, removed his headphones, and placed them on his black hair. The sound produced by the mechanical keyboard was different from that of an ordinary keyboard. After Rao Rong was done, he turned towards Qin Mo. Qin Mo glanced at the game page. Give me an alternate account. He did have quite a few Smurfs on hand. Rao Rong casually mentioned one. After Qin Mo logged in, he glanced at the message on his phone. Then, he opened a live streaming app. The more Rao Rong watched, the more curious he got. When did you start following the trend and watching live streams? I didn't. Qin Mo's gaze landed on the screen. Understand it now. Rao Rong was about to continue when he saw an ID appear on the live stream screen. Spade tea? Ever since the Supreme Alliance disbanded, Rao Rong didn't watch the video again. Most of the customers were boys. Boys look at technique. Only by entering the server's ranking would he attract their attention. For example, at that time, Spade Z, The one who would get the first kill the moment she made a move. Every day, everyone in Zone C would see that person's ID. It was growing at an unbelievable speed. Be it the hidden boss or the first kill of an instance. Chapter 1706. In the game, it was normal to have the same ID. You and I are like I and you are like even the same is nothing. Some fans would even imitate their idols to express their love. When he used to play games, he had met someone called Rao Rong. These were all very common. Therefore, for the sake of a game ID, Qin Mo would never participate in this competition. Rao Rong glanced over. Just as he was about to continue looking, he caught another ID, Flawless Luo Luo. The word flawless was deliberately weakened, as though it didn't exist. Of course, this was not the main point. The key was still the fighting style of those two. For example, Spade T had chosen Spade Z's best assassin back then. Flawless Luo Luo chose Luo Luo's most proficient sorcerer. The girl called Spade T? She even dyed her hair silver. Even if she didn't have a mole, she was going to light one for herself. He glanced up at the camera, his voice calm. Everyone should know how noisy I've been. Spade fans, stop bothering me. If you don't want to watch me play, scram. Rao Rong tilted his head towards Qin Mo. These things were nothing in his eyes. Qin Mo was probably the same. With only this level of strength, it was only natural that he wouldn't participate in a competition. What had happened in the past that made him make this decision? Before he could finish his thought, in the live stream room, a wave of comments popped up. God T is so handsome, we are Spade fans, we aren't here to mess around. Just like the one above, I like Spade Z and Almighty T. In my heart, Supreme Alliance and Spade Z are irreplaceable, but that doesn't affect my support for Almighty T. Go, God T! Rao Rong couldn't help smiling, his lips lifting slightly. Little Spades fan? Seal yourself. Qin Mo threw 2 words over. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. I'm afraid there really are people who like Little Spade, but it's rather amusing to support him while saying he's irreplaceable. It's normal. Qin Mo logged in slowly. Have you ever taken these seriously? Rao Rong lowered his gaze. I'm still a little disappointed. I thought your heart was completely black at that time. Rao Rong knew exactly when it happened. Only Rao Rong knew how he had managed to climb back up. How many times had he felt that it was okay to live in the dark? In any case, this world had always been like this. What is human nature? When you shine, tufted maintenance. When you are defeated, trample at will. Those who say they like you don't know where your despair is. You can't express everything inside you. Because no one understood the saying, with dragon spring on the tongue, killing without spilling blood. Perhaps their love for him was the last straw that crushed his original intentions. The people who defeated us were never our enemies. It's that we've compromised and become like each other. Fortunately, he managed to walk out. Don't be trapped in your heart. Don't fear the future. Because Rao Rong understood. There are human nature in this world that you can't explain. Even if it's just you sitting here. It made people remember why you would give your all to fight a match. Because they were fighting side by side. Because one day, they wanted to fight for the country. Because even though you've been drinking ice for 10 years, you aren't the only one whose blood hasn't cooled. There are also people sitting beside you who have walked out of the darkness and dared to move their mouse again. Perhaps, they were the only ones who came out. But Rao Rong believed that there were many newbies who stayed up late to train, harboring the same feelings as them. They weren't faith and they weren't exceptions. The world was big and everyone had their own dreams of being a hero. Chapter 1707. Kata. The enter key rang. Qin Mo entered the game. He followed the area announced on the live stream and entered the arena. It was a 5v5 match. When he clicked in, he was at Flawless Luo Luo and Spade T's side. But the next second, he clicked on the mouse and went to the opponent's position. This is a smurf and my level isn't high. Can you match me? Rao Rong asked this question for a reason. In Hero, only players of the same level could participate in such a special competition. Unless it was a solo PK, they wouldn't care about such things. Once it was related to leveling up, they would pay attention to the balance of the players and their abilities. They couldn't let a newbie be matched with an expert right from the start. There wouldn't be any gaming experience. However, since these two people were said to be so powerful, they should have at least reached a certain level. How could they be matched with someone of a lower level? Unless they were of a similar level. As expected, Rao Rong took a closer look at their levels and wanted to laugh. No wonder their winning rate is so high. At this level, Little Spade can easily kill 5. Not necessarily, Qin Mo replied faintly. Rao Rong arched a brow. Not necessarily? If the teammate is an actor, he might not be able to kill 5. Qin Mo ignored the teammate who kept asking him to change his hero. This hero could only be used against Spade T. He pressed the confirm button. Rao Rong fell silent, glancing up at the ceiling. Even the results are acted out. But at this level, there isn't a need to act. It can only be explained from the side. Qin Mo paused. Rao Rong replied. Noob. It was a casual word. Rao Rong. All right, but why can't anyone tell that there are actors? Qin Mo thought about it, waiting to enter the game since there wasn't much to do. They are probably like you, they didn't expect that such a level of competition would require actors. Also, they really can't tell. After all, they are Joe's fans. How would they know such basic techniques? Rao Rong coughed, choking. Aren't you being sarcastic? Of course. Qin Mo screwed the bottle cap back on. If they are her fans, how would they not know techniques? Rao Rong thought to himself, a man with a wife is scary. Qin Mo was even scarier when he had a wife. The people in the live broadcast room did not expect what would happen next. Just like before, Spade T went to the opposite wilderness the moment the game started. Together with flawless Luo, they came aggressively. The bullet screen was filled with, so handsome, my Spade T is so handsome. Before entering the competition, Qin Mo turned off the live stream. Rao Rong found it interesting. He took his phone and did a search. When he entered, this was the scene he saw. Wasn't he learning from Little Spade? Even Little Spade's ability to turn wild was the same. However, this was understandable. Carnivorous junglers like to take the initiative to attack. Many contestants also had this characteristic. It was also common for players to have a mana counter at the start of the game. It was probably because of Spade T's performance. As she walked, she typed, "Your wilderness is my home." Rao Rong wanted to laugh. Which capable assassin would show off his abilities like this? Yes, except for Little Spade. She would. That was because of her nature, dark to the core, unrestrained, flamboyant and hateful. Chapter 1708. The live stream was flooded with comments. So handsome. Rao Rong was in a daze for a few seconds. Bragging was considered handsome? Zhao Sanpang was definitely the most handsome. Because he often bragged. Little Spade is narcissistic? Rao Rong asked Qin Mo replied as he started to move the mouse. Her? She often praises herself for being handsome without batting an eyelid. No wonder. Rao Rong touched his chin. She is indeed studious. Qin Mo laughed softly. He seemed to have thought of something. Anyway, his expression was slightly different. Rao Rong ate a mouthful of dog food silently. He saw that Qin Mo was already hiding in the bushes in the wilderness. Rao Rong wanted to say that this was really scheming, too scheming. No wonder Zhao Sanpang called him Scheming Qin. He already knew what the opponent was going to do, which was why he was hiding in the bushes. It was obvious that the actor arranged here wasn't a high-level actor. He only wanted to send himself over. He didn't even know what his own assassin was doing. Up until now, Spade T and Flawless Luo had used this method to gain many points. After all, they were both professional players. It wasn't a problem for them to play such a low-end game. They arranged for one of them to be an actor on the other side because they wanted to play more elegantly. One had to know that people liked them now because they were handsome. They couldn't lose this charm. Now, let's return a blue buff to the opponent, Spade T said as she attacked. Flawless Luo was smiling too. It seemed like this game was extremely easy for them. But they hadn't expected something. A human figure would suddenly emerge from the bushes. A direct punishment. The blue buff they had used for so long was wasted. Spade T was about to explode. F***CK. That's F*King scheming. That's right, it's too scheming. A bunch of comments echoed. But there were also gamers who felt that it was normal. Wasn't it normal for the blue buff to be missed? Why did this person explode? She even cursed? Why did she feel? She couldn't feel it clearly. Everyone watching the live stream froze. That was because the figure in the bushes didn't retreat after taking back the blue buff. A backhand hit Spade T's body. Spade T seemed to be infuriated as she brought the sorcerer to retaliate. However, for some unknown reason, after the move was sent out, it actually missed. And where was he? Where is he? Unlike the audience, Spade T didn't have a full view. As a result, they couldn't see how that person had dodged two of their skills. With a flick of his spear, he jumped into an excellent position. Spade T asked, "Where is he?" He was lifted into the air by the silver-white spear. When the silver sparks fell, Spade T was stunned. Most importantly, Flawless Luoluo used her skill. However, it did not freeze the figure at all. That person seemed to know how she was going to fight. He was always one step ahead to avoid their skills. On the screen, the figure pulled back and forth at an extremely fast speed. It was so dazzling that Spade T didn't even have a chance to react. Even the people watching the live broadcast were shocked by that kind of positioning and hand speed. No bullet screen popped up for a long time. It would only take 3 to 5 seconds. Chapter 1709. First Blood. First Kill. The first drop of blood. Silver sparks fell. The shadow of the long spear was imprinted on the ground. The entire livestream was silent. Did the T die? She died in less than 2 minutes after the start of the game. Spade T's hand paused for a moment. In the next second, she started speaking. "Luoluo, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you have frozen him just now?" This person usually called Flawless Luoluo but always called her Luoluo. Flawless Luoluo was also stunned. She didn't expect the T to die. When she regained her senses, she stuck out her tongue and said, "Sorry, I used the wrong skill just now. I was just being naughty." This kind of explanation could be considered passable. The bullet screen kept saying, "Next time, you can't be naughty, Almighty T is dead," etc. But there were only a few such bullet screen comments. Then, another sound effect was heard. Double kill. Double kill. They must have heard wrongly. Double kill? It was actually a double kill. Everyone's eyes started to shake. But the figure on the screen seemed to naturally sweep past the bushes at the side. As he flipped over the wall, he had already defeated a wild monster in the river. And his HP, which was almost gone just now, actually rose back up. The people who originally came to watch the battle were here to see Spade T. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but click on the person's corner of their vision. This meant that wherever he went, they would see it. Spade T and Flawless Luoluo's mentality was a little broken. Flawless Luoluo never thought that she would die as well. Spade T immediately said, "Luoluo, are you stuck there again?" Yes, I'm stuck again." After Flawless Luoluo said this sentence, Spade T said, "I think so too. But you can't say you're stuck after being killed once." When it was the second time, people watched the game from the other party's perspective. Once again, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo were killed by the silver-white figure. The live stream room was silent. What's the situation? Why did T die again? It doesn't look like a card. I don't think it looks like a card either. It's because he's too fast. Did anyone see how he came out? I've been watching for a long time, but I still don't know where he came from. Look at the assassin he's playing. He can teleport 3 times and go through walls. It's normal for him to suddenly appear. At this moment, Spade T's expression had changed. He was really flustered and exasperated. At this time, it was impossible to talk about teamwork. After all, this was a low-end game. If one did not have the ability to carry 4 people at once, they would have to think of a way to deal with such a person. He must be using a smurf account. But even if he's a smurf, his tank shouldn't be so bad. Smurf? Those who are here purely to see the game skills need to explain why they are still using alternate accounts. Isn't this a high-end game? T doesn't like high-end games. It's already tough enough to train. Now, we're just playing low-end games. As soon as these words were spoken, another sound effect appeared on the screen. 3 times. He had already been double-killed 3 times. How could Spade T bear it? She sent a signal to gather. He didn't even bother with the tower anymore. Instead, he led the other 4 players behind him and dashed towards the figure in the jungle. This time, the other party was definitely going to die. This was the thought that everyone had at this moment. 1 against 5, and his teammates had no intention of coming to support him. Chapter 17:10. At this point in the live stream, someone started saying, "What's going on with the top lane over there? Why isn't he helping? Is it an illusion? I feel like he's an actor. Didn't someone say that this is a low-end game? There are actors in a low-end game?" As people became more and more confused. In the game, there was a round of encirclement. Just when everyone thought that the figure was going to die, he seemed to have predicted the opponent's position. He raised his long spear and didn't escape. Instead, he held the long spear and jumped to the back of those people. The silver-white long spear landed on the ground. His long sleeves fluttered. The dragon sword came out and lifted 2 people at the back. The ADC and support couldn't react at all. Spade T, who was charging at the front, didn't expect him to fight like this. She turned around to fight again. The ADC was already killed by the figure. Everyone could see that the silhouette on the screen was like moving clouds and flowing water, a critical hit, and an instant kill. He took 1 out of the 5 people. After killing that person, he could quickly flee, and then turn around to counterattack. The long spear was sharp and caught him off guard. Even if he didn't go on stage, the people watching the live stream could understand what it felt like. Once he entered the scene, his head was taken. Moreover, there were 5 of them at the beginning. 5 of them couldn't stop him. Not only that, people could clearly see. 1 kill. Double kill. 3 kills. Just like that, in a situation that no one expected. That figure was like the wind that no one could stop. Prediction, positioning, and the awareness of a king. It wasn't that he hadn't been hit before. But every time he was hit, he could kill 1 person. Flawless Lua was among them. It was too fast. So fast that when Spade T saw that the figure had less than a third of his HP left, she thought that her chance had come. First, she let the tank rush over and give him a critical hit. The reason why he raised his spear again was because he wanted to kill this person once and teach him a lesson. It didn't make sense. They used the same hero. The opponent was so much stronger than her. Even if he had good skills. Now he was almost at critical HP. As long as she caught up, she could take his head. Spade T's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't care that the defense towers on this side were almost destroyed. Especially since the bottom lane had been pushed to the high ground. The only thing left in his eyes was to kill someone to avenge his humiliation. The people watching the live stream also understood what T was trying to do. For some reason they were watching this game. He actually hoped that the silver-white figure would not be caught. But no one expected it. He knew that the other party was chasing after him. That person was still wielding his spear and casting a red buff. Hurry up and go. Killing 3 people is enough. That state just now, a 1v5, and he even killed 3 of them. That's really cool. But in the next second, everyone finally understood why he was using the red buff. He didn't do it for the redhead. It was for the sake of sucking blood. At this moment, Spade T flipped up. He entered the red buff area. Originally, he wanted to attack that person. However, the figure only moved his body sideways, and with that subtle movement, he was able to move his body. Spade T's big move didn't hit him at all. Instead, it hit the red buff. This was not the end. He thought that the person was going to leave. Who knew that he would take advantage of this moment to use a jungler skill and take the red buff directly in his hands. Chapter 17:11. F***CK. Is he asking Spade T to help him with the red buff? Asking the opponent to help him with the red buff, that's a trick. Have you guys seen his results? He hasn't played many rounds. I have. He hasn't played many rounds and he's always the MVP with 0 deaths. I'm so envious. But he has always been a team control player. Why is he playing as an assassin this time? As a team control player, I feel that my previous team control games were all for nothing. Stop talking, look. Look at what? This question only lasted for a moment. On the screen, the silver light fell. After the figure took the red buff, he drew close with his long spear and lifted the opponent into the air. Like a silver-white dragon, it turned around and struck back. It was obvious that Spade T was in a daze. Even her expression was blank. She didn't seem to expect herself to be killed. Because she wasn't convinced, Spade T threatened, "You cheater, I'm going to complain about you." How is that possible? He only has so little HP and I haven't killed him for so long. How is that possible? Just as Spade T was shouting, another sound effect played in his ears. Pentakill. Pentakill? He actually got a pentakill. Even the tank was killed by him? The anger in Spade T's mouth seemed to freeze in an instant. The bottom lane had already reached the center of the city. The silver figure with the long spear didn't move at this moment. He just stood there, his wide sleeves fluttering. A line of words appeared on the screen. How did you guys become professional players? This sentence was thousands of times more lethal than saying that their names were the same. The people watching the live stream came to a realization. Before this, they didn't think much of it. But this time, Spade T was stunned by her opponent's performance. They liked this person because he gave them a handsome feeling. Now that they looked at him, the glow seemed to have faded. Some people felt that he looked like Z. Z was gone and a new one appeared. Just enough for them to continue chasing. Now they didn't know why. They didn't like him anymore. They didn't like him anymore. Think about it carefully. Back when Spade Z was playing, she could always enter the wilderness alone, clear the red and blue beasts before returning. Regardless of the situation, she could always go against the wind. When he was tired, he would rebuke others, and there were even times when he would speak ruthlessly. His eyes were filled with ambition. But she has never said bad words. But this T. What they saw was this T. All of them were taken. There were also some who came to see his face. However, he admired this character of his. What right do you have to question our God T's ability as a professional player? But none of that was important. More importantly, those who actually played and watched the competition knew that noobs were noobs. Did they need noobs to raise pigs in esports? After the match, Chin Mo removed his black headphones. Spade T wanted to throw the blame at Spade Z's fans. At this moment, Sister Turtle came out. Chapter 17:12. In an instant, those IDs that had been abandoned filled the entire screen. I'm in Jiang City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in Border City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in. It was just a short minute. Thousands of replies, one after another, increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Some people said that this was a true Spade fan. Those who were active, looking for the same image. They just liked Z's outer shell and handsomeness. Hence, just because there was a slight resemblance, they felt that the other party was the person in their heart. This was understandable. After all, making oneself happy was the most important, regardless of who the other party liked. But true Spade fans would only appear at such times. Some of them were students, some were office workers, and some were newbies who had just entered society. They stopped abruptly. Some emotions that had never been numbed surged out from their eyes. That group of people had used one competition after another to tell everyone what it meant to survive in adversity, to be strong against the strong. When you grow up, you will understand that nothing in this world is easy. But you have to believe that we humans have always been fireflies on the ground. We can make a comeback and pluck the stars. If you are really tired, then ask, can the dream in your heart be awakened again with this group of people? When the news came out, Spade T, who had just been slapped in the face, didn't believe it at all. But this didn't affect the continued popularity. Spade T's plan was to stick to the other party. But not everyone would be like those who like to be in a shell. Spade T still didn't understand. True Spade fans wouldn't care about her at all. Hence, this time, there wasn't any effect. Those people were only waiting for one thing. That was it true? That group of people was coming back. Was it true? At this moment, in the city center of Jiang City, in a tall building, one after another, Figures strolled in. Swoosh. The door of the base opened. Light shone in. Rao Rong was still sitting in front of the computer, his black hair covered with headphones, his hand by the side. Qin Mo was wearing a black and red uniform, standing in the middle with his back facing the back. The two words, China, behind him, with flames, fluttering in the wind. It was as though one could hear the beating of the heart. After hearing the sound of the door, he turned his head. Wherever his gaze landed, Bojiu, Xiao Jing, Lin Feng, Yun Hu, Luo Luo, Feng Shang, Coco, Lin Chintao, Yin Wu Yao, Zhao Sanpang. These people were still the same as they were in his memory. They were youths in the prime of their youth. They were all wearing the same uniform. On the cuffs, there was a national emblem. They stood in a straight line in front of the door, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, a faint smile on their faces. They're all here. Qin Mo opened his mouth, his voice calm as though he was exchanging pleasantries with an old friend. Let's begin. It was just a short sentence, but it seemed to be able to shake something. The aura he exuded made the assistant standing behind him freeze on the spot. However, it was not that there was no reaction. After all, the higher-ups had asked him to take care of these esports players. But that scene was too cool. He was so handsome that the assistant couldn't help but raise his hand. With a click, the photo was formed. Qin Mo stood at the front. Everyone behind him had a gleam in their eyes. The photo was posted to the official account. There was only one sentence accompanying the picture. Chapter 17:13. In many people's hearts. They were really a group of gods. They gathered the best esports players in China and formed a Chinese team. Just looking at the photo and name list would make people want to know about the month before the start of the World League. How would they live? Everyone must be handsome. Zhao Sanpang did think he was handsome. But, scheming Qin, are you serious? You want us to wake up at 8:30? Zhao Sanpang looked at the timetable in front of him, feeling as though he had entered a thief's nest. Qin Mo's voice was calm. For the sake of everyone's health, we will wake up at this time in the future. You must be joking. Zhao Sanpang turned towards the person beside him. Ask them, how many of them can wake up? Bo Jiu raised her hand lazily, smiling devilishly. I can't wake up. Zhao Sanpang shouted. Look. Qin Mo glanced over. Bo Jiu had a serious expression. Think about it, if someone can guide me every day, I can still wake up. After all, it's never dreams that wake me up. It's beauty. Zhao Sanpang's mouth twitched. He shouldn't have relied on little Spade to rebel. How could she say something like that? Esports doesn't wake up early. Yin Wu Yao indicated that this matter had to be discussed. Coco let out a yawn to express his thoughts. Qin Mo glanced up. At the latest 9 a.m. I want to see you in the living room. You have already washed up and are having breakfast. I've been on a diet recently and won't eat breakfast. I should be able to wake up later. Zhao Sanpang was trying his best to sleep a little longer. Qin Mo sat there, nonchalant. I heard you don't like bitter gourd. Is that right, almighty fatty? No one likes bitter gourd, right? Zhao Sanpang blinked. Why? Scheming Qin, are you trying to change our meals? At this moment, Lin Feng and Yun, who were exceptionally quiet. They didn't speak. They quietly watched as the world's most handsome fatty jumped into the pit. Actually, Lin Feng had wanted to speak at the start. He wanted to talk about fitness. Was it true that he had to do 40 push-ups every night? Just as he was about to speak, Yun grabbed his wrist. And arched a brow. He wanted him to observe first. Think about it before bringing up your ideas to the captain. Zhao Sanpang said fearlessly. He even admitted that he didn't like bitter gourds. Did Zhao Sanpang not know? Don't expose your weakness in front of the captain. Because he would definitely make good use of the captain, and then, before Lin Feng could even finish his thought, it's fine if you don't want to wake up early. From tomorrow onwards, I will get Bei to prepare 3 cups of bitter gourd juice for everyone. Those who haven't woken up by 9 a.m. can just drink it. 3 cups of bitter melon juice? Zhao Sanpang's expression changed. This must be a joke. 10 days of closed-door training, starting at 9:30 a.m., training at 12 o'clock p.m. During the afternoon break, it's fine if you don't want to run. You have to drink 3 glasses of bitter gourd juice and do push-ups at night. Qin Mo glanced at the people opposite him. Since we are representing China, we have to look good, don't you think so? They said it was a den of thieves. Zhao Sanpang and Lin Feng looked at each other. Chapter 17:14. Qin Mo sat there calmly. His noble aura didn't diminish in the slightest. It was as though he had seen through them. He said casually, I have already submitted your information to the committee. If you choose to leave now, you will be considered as betraying your country. Betraying your country. Zhao Sanpang glared at him. Scheming Qin, why didn't I know that you would use morals to pressure people? Qin Mo was calm. Do you know now? Zhao Sanpang shook his head. Shameless. Too shameless. Qin Mo looked at him and suddenly smiled. It was a little warm. It seems like Almighty Fatty can't wait to taste the bitter melon juice. Zhao Sanpang's back stiffened. He didn't say another word. After a long time, a higher-up came to visit the members of the Chinese team and asked, You guys used to be the first and second in command of the team. What method did Qin Mo use to allow you guys to get along peacefully? Zhao Sanpang only replied with one word. Shameless. They didn't even have a way to leave the team. Pirate ship. The biggest pirate ship. The esports players weren't used to waking up early. As for Zhao Sanpang, he had to use all his strength to get up. Bo Jiu was much smarter. She could catch up on her sleep by sitting in front of the computer. She sat there with her black headphones on, her uniform pulled to the top. Her entire face was covered, only revealing a pair of starry eyes. Her silver hair fell down. From afar, she looked very handsome. But when she got closer, she could see the youngster's head nodding. The side of the face was porcelain white, and it looked a little cool, like a cat, sleeping lightly. Qin Mo walked over, emptied one hand, and tapped the man's forehead with his finger. Bo Jiu paused. She opened her eyes. There was still a hint of sleepiness in her eyes. It was obvious she wasn't fully awake. Subconsciously, she thought that she was still in a castle overseas. She reached out, wanting to hug his waist and carry out her daily morning teasing. Qin Mo sensed her thoughts and a smile appeared on his lips. In order to prevent a certain someone from acting like a hooligan and forgetting where they were, Qin Mo took a seat. He freed one hand and placed it on her side before lowering his body. Mrs. Qin, wake up. Look at where you are. Do you want to go outside and do frog jumps with Almighty Fatty, or do you want a glass of bitter melon juice? Frog jump. Bitter melon juice. These 6 words seemed to have a magical nature. Bo Jiu had assumed that as someone who had graduated from high school, it would be impossible for her to come into contact with a sport like frog jumps. It was really too embarrassing to turn his hands behind his back and squat there and jump around like a frog. He didn't expect that a married person like her would have to experience this kind of life all over again. Most importantly, the frog was not jumping inside. Instead, it was to be at the plaza outside the building. It was a business district after all. A row of people were doing frog jumps, still wearing their uniforms. It was really eye-catching. In the beginning, even if it was embarrassing, it was only in front of passers-by. After that, some fans came to catch them. Every day, they would bet on who would wake up late to do frog jumps. Even people as thick-skinned as Zhao Sanpang and Bo Jiu wanted to maintain their image. The photo of Bo Jiu with a lollipop in her mouth and randomly posting frog jumps was still circulating on the internet. Chapter 17:15. However, it wasn't easy to beat a loafer. The next day, Bo Jiu was still in the group being punished. Other than her, there was Lin Feng and Zhao Sanpang. Frog jumps. What did Zhao Sanpang look like when he jumped? Besides, shameless Qin didn't allow them to wear masks. Zhao Sanpang couldn't catch his breath. He turned to Bo Jiu. Little spade. I'm not a troublemaker. You're scheming Qin's wife, but he's still punishing you. If I were you, I would divorce him. Bo Jiu bit the lollipop. She felt a little depressed. She placed her hands behind her head and jumped again and again. Her silver hair moved along with her. He was so handsome that the girls around him kept raising their phones. Their faces were still red, and their hearts couldn't take it anymore. Their big spade was so handsome that they wanted to take him home and raise him. However, the person supervising the punishment was Almighty Qin. He held a cup of green liquid in his hand. It was said to be the bitter gourd juice that made all the members obey him the moment they heard his name. He was like a devil. It was too difficult to snatch someone from his hands. Bo Jiu was the first to complete the frog jumps. Zhao Sanpang watched from the back. Little spade, how are you so fast? I have experience. Bo Jiu reached out and wiped her sweat. She smiled devilishly. I was often punished in high school. These 20 frog jumps are nothing. I can do one round around the entire field. Zhao Sanpang smirked. Is that something to be proud of? Almighty fatty. After Bo Jiu was done with her punishment, she found a wooden stick. I don't like it when anyone tries to sow discord between me and Brother Mo, Zhao Sanpang cursed. How am I supposed to jump if you move the wooden stick away? This is a military marriage. If you continue to spoil it, I'll get someone to arrest you, Bo Jiu said nonchalantly. She didn't move the wooden stick in front of him. Almighty fatty is so handsome. A wooden stick is nothing. Zhao Sanpang couldn't jump over. He couldn't help but shout, scheming Qin, come over and control your family. Qin Mo walked over, his gaze landing on her. Bo Jiu said, he wants us to divorce. Qin Mo retracted his gaze, his voice calm. Continue. Zhao Sanpang was speechless. It was one thing to do frog jumps, but he had to do it like this. In the past, Bo Jiu had a habit of showing off her love. Otherwise, as a smart car, Blackie wouldn't be unable to tolerate its master. Zhao Sanpang really didn't understand her in this aspect. Everyone saw that handsome young man with a black headband on his silver hair. His fair forehead glistening with beads of sweat. He held a wooden stick and blocked Fat God again and again. He didn't forget to say, every time he punishes me, he will give me a reward, such as candy or a kiss. I think it's good to do a few frog jumps, but the bitter gourd tastes terrible. But if you can't finish, I can prepare a few more cups for you later. Zhao Sanpang was speechless. Although he had never been in a relationship before, he had seen others who would deliberately make a mistake just for a kiss from their boyfriend and get punished. He shouldn't have said that just now. Little Spade looked very obedient in front of Qin Mo, but in fact, she was full of evil. Bo Jiu didn't care about his thoughts. She threw the wooden stick down and went to her man to receive her reward. Chapter 17:16. Qin Mo watched a certain someone who was smiling. After entering the base, he found a corner and pressed her against the wall, kissing her again and again. Bo Jiu wrapped her arms around his waist as her breaths rose and fell. The taste was slightly sweet when it entered the tongue. It was weird. It wasn't the first time they kissed. However, that kind of numbness never weakened. Bo Jiu smiled. She liked the look in his eyes when his breathing was unstable. That was something that could only be felt for her. It was a pity that the medicine she got from the Black brothers didn't work on him at all. Otherwise, she would have been able to appreciate more beauty. Bo Jiu moved closer as she thought about it. It was this action that made Qin Mo's kiss deepen. It was as though he could take away all his thoughts and make his mind go blank. Only when she lost all her energy and could only rest on his body to recover did he release her. He pressed against her and said something softly in the corner. After tidying her uniform he said, I admire Mrs. Qin's attitude in protecting our marriage. Keep it up. Bo Jiu's lips were still numb. She didn't pay attention to what Qin Mo said. This was the problem of kissing for too long. Every touch brought with it a numbness. The two of them wouldn't be intimate in public. But there would be occasional kisses. This didn't affect their performance. On the contrary, everyone in the team used the limited time to improve themselves. Whether it was their physique, ability to withstand pressure, technical layout, or their hand speed. As a control sorcerer, Luo used her abilities to prove that she hadn't slowed down. Everyone had problems to overcome. Uncle Ian was thinking about how to overcome his current self. He had reached a bottleneck before. Qin Mo brought over the past information and the tactical analysis of the various teams in the world. At that time, they would be considered to have entered a battle state. They understood one point clearly. Next, they were going to bring esports out of the country. Every country had sent their strongest team to face the challenge. What they could do was to train well and be more prepared. As for other things, they were a team that grew stronger the stronger they were. On the battlefield, they wouldn't just be at their current standard. Except for China. Some of the Japanese team members would also represent their countries. How could Xiaofan and Hoshino not be among them? Only during this period of time. No one knew what was going on. There seemed to be a barrier between the captain and the vice-captain. The captain rarely spoke. Apart from playing games, he didn't say a single word. The vice-captain was the same as before, sleeping more than awake. But the captain's condition was still not right. Even though the captain had a very beautiful face, the sharpness that seeped out from her bones made many people want to persuade her, but they didn't know how. Moreover, the Japanese didn't want their captain to lead the team. If it wasn't for the vice-captain defeating them all by himself, they would definitely be unconvinced. But even so, the captain still looked cold. It seemed like he had been in this state ever since Spade Z's wedding. That was strange. Captain should be happy that Spade Z was getting married. That way, no one would be fighting with Captain for the vice-captain position. Why did Captain seem to be distancing himself from him? Chapter 17:17. In Japan, gangsters were allowed to have legal activities. Xiaofan was the 19th generation leader. His usual hobbies, other than gaming, were racing and drinking. Moreover, almost everyone here knew about it. It was best not to offend Xiaofan. Because he was a snake, he could spit out a red tongue. Don't think that just because he had a pretty face he was a pretty boy. Many people didn't even know how they died because of this. Now, there was someone who didn't know his place and wanted to take him away in the nightclub. Xiaofan drank a little too much today. He wore local clothes and with his long hair, it was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. But after meeting his eyes, one should know that he didn't have any femininity. But even so, there were those who couldn't move when they saw a beauty. Do you want to leave with me? I still have a lot of alcohol with me. The person who said this was the beauty who was drunk and wanted to take the chance to take her away. Unexpectedly, before he could place his hand on that person's shoulder, there was a creaking sound. His wrist was forcefully broken by that person. When the pain came, there was only a scream left. Xiaofan laughed coldly and pushed him away. He looked down at him and spat out one word. Scram. That person's expression changed in fear. Xiaofan reached out and pushed his black hair to the back of his head. He glanced to the side. The bartender immediately brought a new bottle of alcohol over. He was afraid that something would happen to the master here. Why didn't his brothers come over? They must have received orders to stand around. What about young Master Hoshino? Why didn't he come? As long as young Master Hoshino came, then there would be true peace. If not, who knew how many people would have their hands broken tonight? Tell me what's wrong with me? Xiaofan suddenly spoke. He wasn't like an ordinary person who couldn't speak clearly after getting drunk. His face didn't look sloppy at all. It was still handsome and sharp. But as a follower, what's wrong with the master? This was a question that was asking for death. Not answering? Xiaofan scoffed. After he stood up, he glanced at one of the beauties who was still dancing and raised his glass. What kind of place was this? A place to have fun. After the beauty saw this, she walked over. Xiaofan lifted the other party's chin and seemed to smile. He could really win over both men and women. What do you think is wrong with me? He was too handsome. He was so handsome that it was hard to breathe. How could there be such a person? His hair was clearly longer than his own, but it was like a demon that bewitched all living beings. The beauty moved closer, wanting to kiss his lips. But Xiaofan pushed him away. Then he shook his finger. This won't do. Why? The beauty didn't think that a person like him would like a man. The uncle who came up to her just now was blind. Just by looking at this person's wolf-like eyes, it was clear that he would not bow down to anyone. He was the one who was fatally attractive to girls. Especially now, when he began to tug at his collar. Very hot? I can help you cool down. You must be thirsty after drinking so much. My car is just outside. Xiaofan listened to her words and suddenly smiled, but before he could speak, Xiaofan suddenly smiled. Someone was walking toward them. Chapter 17-18. It was Hoshino. He was wearing a white shirt and a sweater from late autumn. He was carrying a cat in his arms. From afar, he looked like a character that walked out of a manga. It was hard to ignore him. The bartender instantly revealed an expression as though he was saved. Shin's eyes paused for a moment. His thin lips were a little nonchalant. I haven't drunk enough, I won't go back for now. Hoshino threw the cat into his arms. He was as refined as ever. I didn't ask you to go back. You raised your own cat, aren't you going to feed it? It won't starve to death. Shin picked up the cat with one hand. He saw that the woman's gaze was focused on Hoshino's face. She suddenly smiled. Why? You don't want to bring me away now. You want to bring him to your car? The woman blushed as her thoughts were seen through. Shin couldn't be bothered to look at her anymore. He swept a glance in the direction of the bodyguard. Very quickly, someone came over to clear the place. They wouldn't do anything to her. That woman didn't need to come to this place anymore. Even if the music was noisy, it didn't seem to affect their temperament. Shin held the cat and looked at his eyes. Then he scoffed. Your master doesn't have time to care about you now. If you don't want to starve to death, go find food yourself. He was in a bad mood and didn't even want to care about the cat. Yet he reeked of alcohol. Young Master Hoshino. The bartender wanted to say something but stopped. Hoshino glanced down. Go get a room. Yes. The bartender thought that his boss was indeed suitable to sleep in this state. If not, if there were any more people who weren't afraid of death that came to his door, it would be terrible. Shin smiled. He didn't have any objections, but he wouldn't cooperate. He sat there and picked a bottle of strong alcohol. He poured it into a goblet with one hand. Hoshino finished the glass of wine right after he poured it out. Shin narrowed his eyes and poured another glass. Let's go. Hoshino's voice was very calm. I'm tired from looking for you. I'll be even more tired after a few more glasses. Shin glanced up and suddenly laughed. No wonder that woman wanted to take you away. It's a pity that she doesn't understand that our Mr. Hoshino doesn't care about anyone other than Z. Hoshino looked at him. His face smelled of wine and the corners of his eyes were red, but he was very cold. You're here because of this? Hoshino furrowed his brows but soon relaxed. His tone was calm as he stated a fact. Other than Z, isn't there also you? Shin was about to spit out his snake tongue when he suddenly stopped. He did not sober up. But it did not affect his thoughts. He knew very well that Hoshino treated him like family. This was what Shin couldn't understand. He was the first person to know him. If it wasn't for the fact that something had happened, he wouldn't have rushed to Hoshino's side immediately. How could Z have a chance? Even until now, Hoshino was still keeping his promise with the Bo family. He was doing it willingly. Even though Z said that she wanted to remove it, he would not give up either. This was what made Shin feel the most helpless. But it was different now. With Chin Mo by her side, Z had long cut off Hoshino's thoughts. Since that was the case, why should he be anxious? Shin lowered his lids and laughed. I thought you forgot what you said. No. Hoshino's temperament didn't change. Chapter 17-19. I never thought of going against the promise. Hoshino's emotions didn't change. Even his voice was calm. Since you finished drinking, go to sleep. Shin smiled lazily, fatally handsome. My bed partner was seduced by you. How can I sleep? Don't you know? I'll feel cold if no one sleeps with me. I'll sleep with you. Hoshino bent down, picked up the cat on the ground and placed it back in his hands. His eyes were like splashing ink. Shin paused, turned his head and smiled. That's fine too. Even though he knew that the sleeping partner he was talking about was simply accompanying him. Shin didn't want to miss such contact. They hadn't slept in the same room for a long time. It wasn't considered in the base. There were so many people. When they were young, the two of them often slept in the same bed. Later on, this person became distant from him. Shin's gaze was calm, trying not to think about it. The room was in the deepest part of the bar. A high-class large-scale bar like this. There would be VIP rooms for the night. but there were only 4 or 5 rooms. Usually, they were reserved for the most distinguished guests and gang members. The leader and young Master Hoshino were both there, so there were originally 2 rooms. After the bartender heard the conversation, he decisively asked someone to change to another room. After Yu Cixin was drunk, the fatal feeling on his body became more prominent. But he really drank a little too much. After opening the door, he walked into the bathroom. In a short while, the sound of vomiting came from inside. It was obvious that the drunk person wasn't feeling well. What was it this time? Was it because of those relatives who wanted to fight for power? It seemed like it was time for Su Qing to find out who Black Flame was. Hoshino stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, pressing the intercom. "Get someone to cook some hangover soup and porridge. Send it over." "Yes, young Master Hoshino." This was the most peaceful day in recent times. Every time this happened, there would be people who wanted to spend the night with the boss. How many pale faces would leave? They couldn't remember. Fortunately, young Master Hoshino was here today. Boss seems to agree with young Master Hoshino. Both of their auras are so strong. Of course, look at who they are. Boss listens to young Master Hoshino because they have known each other since young. "You've known each other since childhood?" "Yes, I also heard it from the family." When they were young, Boss and young Master Hoshino were really inseparable. The 2 of them were different from other children. They would always lie under a tree and read books together. They would even fence and shoot together. At that time, were the 2 of them like this? It can be said that the leader has never changed, but young Master Hoshino disappeared for a period of time because something happened to his family. But when he came back, he didn't seem to be as close to the leader as before. Some people say that it's because they've grown up. That's right. Hoshino wouldn't be able to hear these discussions. All he heard was that the bathroom had been silent for a long time. He glanced sideways and glanced at the hangover soup and porridge that had been sent in. He waited for another 3 minutes, but there was still no sound. Only then did he stroll in. After opening the door, steam rose up from the hot water. Chapter 17:20. He was like a vampire aristocrat who was in deep sleep. Even that face seemed to be able to bring out the suffocating beauty of a rose. However, Yu Cixin knew that his current appearance wasn't attractive to that person at all. The moment this thought appeared, the footsteps stopped beside his ear. Hoshino raised his hand and pulled out a towel. He looked down at the person in the bathtub, looking a little like the most competent deacon in a manga. He placed the towel over Yu Cixin's head, his gaze faint. "What are you doing?" Yu Cixin opened his eyes, his gaze extremely sharp. "You didn't terminate the contract with Z Hoshino. You know what requirements I have for the people around me." Hoshino's voice wasn't loud or soft. "What requirements?" "You can only look at me." Yu Cixin stretched out his hand and pulled his collar, the smell of alcohol lingering. Hoshino glanced down at his hand. His aura didn't change. "Didn't I say earlier that I will abide by the words I said when I entered the main family? Since I became a death attendant, I will only look at you in the future. The main family's contract is really useful." Yu Cixin's smile deepened, but there wasn't any warmth in his eyes. Hoshino checked the water temperature. "It's getting cold. Wipe it clean and come out." With that, he stood up. He could hear the splashing sound behind him. Yu Cixin did walk out of the bathtub with a towel around him, but the first thing he did was to hug Hoshino's waist from behind. Then, a low voice sounded. "You promised to sleep with me. Don't go back on your words." Hoshino glanced down and felt the moisture behind him. He didn't take this action to heart. He just glanced over and said faintly, "Let go." Yu Cixin's extremely beautiful eyes narrowed at this moment, then he said slowly, "I won't let go." Hoshino's aura seemed to always be like this. He wouldn't allow anyone to continue messing around. Even Yu Cixin was the same. He removed the hand on his waist and walked out of the bathroom. Yu Cixin's gaze, which was about to follow the back view, sank. That person walked in again, a bathrobe hanging on his arm. "Lower your head." Yu Cixin still reeked of alcohol. He did as he was told. Hoshino reached out and helped him put on the bathrobe. Looking at his unhappy face, he thought about it and said slowly, "I'll stay with you like I did when we were kids." "Isn't that enough?" Xiaofan paused but didn't raise his head. Like when we were young. Hoshino grunted in acknowledgement. His gentleness didn't change. He handed him a towel before walking back to the bed. Xiaofan wanted to say, "You know I want more than this." But he didn't say this out loud. In any case, they were going to sleep together later. Since there was a breakthrough, then there was no need to think too much. At most he would use force. Thinking about this, Xiaofan's lips curved upwards. That kind of smile indeed looked like a beautiful snake spitting out its red tongue. However, it was clear that his seductive androgynous beauty, under his deliberate efforts, did not arouse that person's interest. Xiaofan smiled. When he came out, he saw that the person was already lying on the bed. Xiaofan simply walked over. First, he pressed down on Hoshino's wrist. Then, he bent down slightly. Under the bathrobe, porcelain white could be faintly seen. It was cold to the touch. Many people felt that he was a cold-blooded animal. It was probably because Xiaofan's body temperature was slightly low. He lowered his body and his gaze met Hoshino's. Indeed, he had to use force. Chapter 17:21. Before Xiaofan could do anything, he was pressed back by Hoshino's backhand. Xiaofan narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "Aren't you going to abide by the agreement and be my shadow? Aren't you going to let me touch you? You're so drunk that you don't even want your hand?" Hoshino leaned against Xiaofan's ear when he said this. Xiaofan glanced down. Indeed, because of the alcohol, his strength was weaker than usual. "Why? If I really make a move, will you really break my wrist?" "No." Hoshino looked at the handsome face that was inches away from him. His gaze was still the same as usual. This word made Xiaofan bury his face into the pillow. "Then let go. It seems like you really underestimated your influence on me. If you speak into my ear like this, I'm going to have a reaction, heh." That, heh, made Hoshino notice something. He wasn't joking, he was serious. His brows unconsciously furrowed, and he loosened his grip as he stood up. Xiaofan, who was released, leaned there lazily. There was a sharp beauty in the corner of his eyes. "Why? Are you frightened?" Hoshino glanced at him. "When did it start? Don't you know that I don't discriminate between men and women?" As Xiaofan spoke, he tilted his head and lit a cigarette in his hand. When he smoked, he was very handsome and had a kind of mischievousness. Hoshino retracted his gaze and took a step forward. Xiaofan spoke again. "You want to break off your relationship with me? Or do you feel disgusted?" Hoshino turned back and looked at the person who laughed wantonly. He remembered that this fellow was like this when he was young. He would laugh no matter what he encountered, including when his mother tried to attract his father's attention. She often made him go to the main family with a swollen face. When he was young, he looked like a doll. He could make use of his surroundings, and no one could tell that he had cried before. It was said that children who were used as tools by their biological mothers didn't like to talk. But Xiaofan was different. The smile on his lips would never disappear. Who bullied him? He would get revenge. He just needed to wait. Because of this. That was why he was here. Moreover, Xiaofan didn't really like him when he was young. Hoshino could feel that although the man was smiling at him, there was no warmth in his eyes. But even so, the two of them were not the kind of people who would tear off their disguises. The innocence of a child seemed very far away from them. To some extent, no matter how unwilling they were at the time, they were still people who accompanied each other. In the first month, they will be like many sensible children. He would call him when he saw him. "Hoshino, let's go practice fencing. It must be very interesting." Later on, the two of them confirmed that neither of them was pure. He didn't even greet him when he saw him. And he was even more so. On the 4th month. They were still together, but they had a childish fight. Because he saw his mother hitting him. Xiaofan threatened him. "If you tell anyone about this, none of us will have a good time." At that time when he said this, the corners of his mouth were still curled up, just like now. But his hands were trembling, and his eyes seemed to be swirling. Chapter 17:22. Forget it. Anyway, he already had his cat. It wasn't difficult to have one more. Hoshino reached out and took the cigarette from Yu Cixin's hand. He put it out in the ashtray. Let's talk. Yu Cixin paused, his gaze deepened. I don't want to talk. Anyway, you're rejecting me. When Hoshino heard this, his gaze paused. His aura didn't change. Who said that I'll definitely reject you? This sentence caught Yu Cixin off guard. He froze on the spot. Even his eyes were a little round. The more he looked at him, the more he looked like his cat. Hoshino reached out and pinched his chin. His gaze was still calm. Many women outside say that they'll feel happy when they kiss you. They probably haven't seen your expression before. After he mentioned it, Yu Cixin seemed to have realized something. He smirked evilly. Indeed, it will be very happy. Do you want to try? No need, I can't accept it now. Hoshino's words were true. He liked women. But in terms of feelings, Yu Cixin was more important. It was probably related to the environment he grew up in. Hoshino had always been indifferent towards women. Z was an exception. This person was an exception too. Hoshino could clearly see that person's eyes dimmed after he finished his sentence. He didn't know why. He just didn't want to see this person grow up to be like this. Lonely, like a person without a goal. He paused and added another sentence. When I can accept it, I'll try it with you. Hoshino, this sentence of yours sounds like what you said to Bei Tai. Yu Cixin smiled slowly. There was a hint of viciousness in his voice. I won't wait for you to accept it. I'll take action when I have the chance. If not, I won't like you anymore. Why must I like you? Yes, why must he like this person? How many people were waiting to climb into his bed? Women. Men. She was handsome and beautiful. They were all queuing up to be taken by him. Yet, he took a liking to someone he would never be able to get. Hoshino looked up. His aura was pure. You can take action. The unexpected answer made Yu Cixin glance over. You won't give me a chance to attack. Hoshino looked at the back of his slightly red ears and knew that he had realized what he had said. He lowered his voice and said, If that's the case, do you think I would be here? Yu Cixin laughed again and pulled him over. Then you have to explain it properly. Why can't you accept it now? Are you worried that my skills aren't good? Don't worry, I will make it very comfortable for you. After all, you have no experience. Hoshino looked at him, his eyes deep. Who gave you the illusion that I'm the one down there? Yu Cixin chuckled. Are you like those people? Do you think that because I have such a face, Before he could finish, Hoshino's voice rang out again. Plato, if you really want. Plato? Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes. His vibe as venomous as a snake's. I reacted when you talked to me like that just now. You want me to be Plato? Hoshino was emotionless. You reacted just by talking to me like that? If not, how do you think I noticed? Yu Cixin suddenly paused when he said this. Chapter 17:23. The only thing Yu Cixin could feel was the slight coldness coming from his fingertips. When it touched his waist, he felt a numbness that caught him off guard. Even his eyes stopped moving. Hoshino looked into his eyes and said slowly, What about this? Yu Cixin didn't move because his body reacted faster than his brain. He seemed to be immersed in it. Hoshino's hand stopped on the second bone on the person's back. He moved closer. In the past, I didn't realize why those people wanted to bring you away. It's hard not to think about it when you're like this. But do you really think you can suppress me? Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes and held onto his wrist. Do you have a misunderstanding about my stamina? I can't suppress you? I feel that it's easy for you to go berserk in this state. Hoshino wasn't flustered. If I kiss you now, your stamina will probably decrease to 0. Kiss? When he heard this word, Yu Cixin froze. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to explode. There was no rhythm to it. Only he could hear the sound. Even if Yu Cixin was a beautiful venomous snake, he was still in a harmless state. He even seemed to be waiting to be slaughtered. Hoshino's hand changed direction and came to the back of his neck. He pressed his forehead against his and breathed slowly. You like me so much? You're like this just because I said it? Yusi narrowed his eyes and smiled. He said lazily, who am I not like this to? You know that you slept with too many people. Hoshino's gaze was indifferent. So, how do you make me believe that your liking isn't a momentary impulse? What? Yusi felt that he had never been so close to him before. In this way, she could even feel his thin lips very close to her. At this moment, Yusi didn't know what Hoshino was talking about. He sensed that the person was about to pull his hand away. He lifted the corners of his eyes and pressed his hand down. Why are you talking so much? Help me. Help you with what? Hoshino wasn't in a hurry. He looked at that handsome face and felt a different kind of fragility. Yusi lowered his voice. What do you want to help me with? I'm so obvious. Even if you don't have experience, you should know. Hoshino's leg came into contact with the scalding heat, but his gaze remained unchanged. Answer my previous question first. Of course he understood. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Therefore, after he said this sentence, Hoshino leaned sideways, his thin lips landing on the tip of the man's ear. Yusi, who was already intoxicated, felt the blood in his body heating up. Not only did his hands stop, even his body was trembling. What did he just do? Kiss him? He didn't stay for too long. Even when he only felt a flash of numbness. He didn't plan to continue kissing her. Yusi had never felt that he wanted someone to continue touching him so much. It was as if he was suffering from skin hunger. This made Yusi-shin's breathing a little chaotic. What's the problem with the previous one? His brain had stopped working. Because until now, he had never felt like this before. He was so greedy that he didn't know how to be satisfied. Chapter 17:24. Yusi didn't know that his heart could beat so fast. It was like a storm that swept over. It was just a touch on the tip of his ear. How could there be such a strong feeling? Hoshino looked at the pair of eyes that were obviously a little unfocused. His gaze landed on the handsome face that was different from before. His black silk-like hair scattered beside his hand. Forget it. Hoshino chuckled. Yusi didn't understand what he was laughing about. Moreover, they had already reached this step. Was he going to tell him to forget it? The pair of eyes that were immersed in it slowly narrowed. He was about to flare up. He heard that person whisper in his ear, compared to others, I don't like you on a whim. Yusi-shin's back stiffened. Hoshino had already stood up. What was this? Was he tricked? Yusi-shin's eyes were a little heavy. His heart felt as though it was frozen. He wanted to stand up too. But he was affected by Hoshino's next action. That person pressed down on his wrist and used his other hand to pick up the hangover water beside him. Where are you going? Drink this first. Is this the time to drink hangover water? Yusi grabbed Hoshino's collar and pressed his body closer. Hoshino's voice was very calm. If you don't drink it, you will regret it the next day. I won't this time. Let me sleep. Yusi-shin's attitude was very lazy. Anything can be solved. Hoshino sat beside him. His aura didn't change at all. You can sleep after you finish drinking. Heh. Yusi laughed softly. You kissed me first and now you're telling me to sleep like this? Hoshino lifted his eyelids. Or do you want to take a shower? You can. Anyway, the perfume on your body is too strong. It smells uncomfortable. Perfume? Are you kidding me? I never use incense. Yusi suddenly paused. Are you jealous? MMH? Yusi paused. Hoshino's expression didn't change. I really don't want to dig you out from the bed of any woman or man the next day. Moreover, since we want to be together, your actions should be restrained. Then sleep with me. Yusi-shin's mischievousness came from his bones. After sleeping with you, I probably won't be interested in anyone else. Hoshino glanced at him. Are you thinking about these things all day long? Isn't it good to be honest? Yusi-shin chuckled. Or am I not good-looking enough? Hoshino looked at him. Yusi-shin's aura got closer to that person. He was very good at using his appearance to achieve things. The only time he didn't use it was against Hoshino. But today was different. He wanted this person so badly. Moreover, Yucixin believed that he wouldn't remain unmoved. You really don't want to try? That kind of bewitchment was very tempting. In addition, Yucixin's lips were almost touching Hoshino's. But at this moment, Hoshino reached out and pulled the blanket. He covered Yucixin's handsome face with it. Even his head was covered. What are you doing? Yucixin narrowed his eyes and pulled the blanket down. Hoshino's voice was indifferent. Sleep. We're already at this stage and you're asking me to sleep? Yucixin laid on the bed but he was still unhappy. Chapter 1725. Was the future long? Sometimes, Yucixin felt that the Chinese language had a charm. It was because a few simple words would make people feel that his future wasn't cold anymore. He wasn't going to wake up from a stranger's bed when he couldn't sleep. He seemed to have been like this since he was young. He could always find a sense of stability in this person. And this was the first time Hoshino looked at him with such a gaze. It was like the water in the mountain stream and as tough as a rock. There was a little snow in it but it didn't feel cold at all. Instead, it made his fingers stiffen. Although he was drunk and his stamina couldn't keep up. But Yucixin's aura didn't fade. He was so evil that he wouldn't yield to anyone. This was also why some people wanted to challenge him when they saw him. And the reason why some people backed down. Many people died in Yucixin's hands. Of course, those who didn't have eyes and thought that he was the best would end up in a terrible state. Hence, the title of Viper was known to everyone. No matter what the occasion was, as long as he sat there, it would become a phenomenon. He was like an extremely extravagant dark noble with a crown on his head. There were many beauties around him. But now, Yucixin's attack speed slowed down. The feeling of his rhythm being controlled by someone else. This was something he had never experienced before. Yucixin squinted his eyes and wanted to stir up the atmosphere again. That person suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged him in the blanket. His voice rang beside his ear. Sleep if you don't sleep, I won't be responsible for accompanying you to sleep. Yucixin froze. Even his slender legs didn't move. His life was messy. He was completely different from this person. Yucixin didn't understand why such a simple action wasn't intense at all. There was even a blanket between them. But it gave Yucixin a very different feeling. It even made him feel reluctant to let go and he didn't want to destroy the current atmosphere. If he had to describe it, it was much more warm than sleeping with a stranger for a night. It was like the first time he ate cotton candy when he was young. All right, as a leader. His mother told him since young that cotton candy wasn't something he should eat. Unsurprisingly, after he was found to have eaten cotton candy, he was severely beaten up. But even so, the tip of his tongue had not forgotten the taste of cotton candy. The faint sweetness lingered for a long time. Yucixin didn't move. He just looked at the ceiling and replied, "MH." Hoshino looked at the face that had been too good to look at since he was young. He raised his eyebrows slightly. No resistance. Yucixin was really asleep, so he didn't care that he was the one being hugged. The next day, when Hoshino received Bo Jio's invitation, he didn't reply. Instead, he called her. "Is it convenient for you to bring your family along?" Family? Bo Jio paused, her lips lifting. "It seems like you have thought it through. All right, bring them over." Hoshino chuckled. "You know who it is? Who else could it be other than that poisonous snake?" Bo Jio lifted her long legs. After frog jumping, she was resting. "Since you can't let go of him, you would have gone to do other things. You wouldn't have stayed there as a consultant. Nowadays, gangs are becoming more and more sophisticated, and there are even positions like consultants. But, Hoshino, can he be stable?" Hoshino glanced at the sleeping man on the bed. "I will think of a way to stabilize him." Chapter 1726. From what she knew. Yucixin would get up from other people's beds every day. But he would never have sex with those people. It was probably because of his childhood trauma. Similarly, his popularity would never last long. Hoshino was probably the only one who could stop him. Venomous snakes had always been cunning. They would hide in the bushes and try to swallow a person. He didn't know that the hunter had already set up a trap. He was just waiting for him to make the first move. Then, he would pull back and bring the venomous snake home. I wonder if it's cold to hug a snake. Bo-Gio hung up the phone and smiled. There wasn't anyone supervising them today, so Bo-Gio wasn't very interested. She muttered to herself. She heard a voice beside her ear. Aren't you going to train properly? Wait a moment. I'll buy a box of heat pads for Hoshino first. I'll give it to him when we go to Milan. Bo-Gio leaned against the railing behind her. She didn't even look up as she tapped on the shopping page. Her other hand was casually placed at the side. The ends of her hair were still slightly wet. The youngster looked clean and evil. Manager Feng wanted to remind her that a certain someone was back. Who would have thought? It would lead to Hoshino's name. As expected, Chin Mo, who was standing beside him, replied, "Oh." His gaze was still calm. "Do you need to buy an electric blanket for him too? An electric blanket is good, it can conduct heat." Bo-Gio paused. She kept her phone naturally and looked at the handsome and noble face in front of her. Then, her hands moved. She hugged his waist and took advantage of him. "I didn't see you today. I didn't have any motivation when I was punished." Chin Mo raised the corner of his eyes. "Madam Chin, where's your face?" "I ran away from home temporarily." Bo-Gio looked up lazily. Chin Mo signaled to her that there were people around. Bo-Gio noticed them. Since her obedient disciple wasn't among them, she glanced over. Her evil smile was obvious. It was basically saying, "Don't you think you're a little extra?" Zhao Sanpang couldn't tolerate it. He had seen many people showing off their love, but he had never experienced such a strange one. Of course, she couldn't be a third wheel. She wouldn't be able to eat dinner if she did that. Bo-Gio watched them with a smile. When they were gone, she lifted her head and kissed the lips that were inches away from her. There was a faint smell of tobacco. Chin Mo didn't allow her to be insatiable. Even though there was a smile in his eyes, he had to clarify his principles. "Why did you buy Hoshino thermal pads? You see Shin's body temperature is slightly cold." Bo-Gio wasn't pleased that her kiss had been interrupted. She arched a brow. Buying such things might improve their relationship. Chin Mo asked casually. "Their relationship?" "MMH, don't ask about that. Don't hang out with them in the future," Bo-Gio replied casually. "You're too pure, it's easy for you to turn gay." Chin Mo lowered his lids. "Easily gay? This thing has always been affected." Bo-Gio smiled faintly. "I respect everyone's sexual orientation, but I hate the idea that the same sex is the only true love. Besides, Hoshino and young Master Xin are both bewitching. Brother Mo, don't ever think about it." Chin Mo swept her a glance. His voice was calm. "Give me your phone." Bo-Gio arched a brow. "Brother Mo, don't you think you're behaving like a girl? Why are you looking at your phone?" "Give it to me," Chin Mo repeated. Bo-Gio handed it over. Chapter 17:27. Chin Mo only took 2 glances at it. He locked his gaze on one of the paragraphs. "Luo, little Spade, do you know how interesting it was when we met your parents?" Spade Black asked. "How so?" "Luo, Auntie and the others always felt that our captain liked Chin Mo ever since he was young. He didn't pay so much attention to anyone other than Chin Mo. Auntie was still wondering if we were pretending to be a couple in order to deal with our family." When she heard that Chin Mo had sent a delivery, her expression changed. Speaking of which, Chin Mo really gave off the impression that he didn't care about men and women. The Mo and Jing couple has always been very popular. Bo-Gio smiled and said lazily, "When he comes back, I'll discipline him." Luo replied with a light smile. "There's no need for discipline. If they are together, we will elope. Anyway, you will always be the Almighty in my heart." Chin Mo released the screen and looked up at a certain someone. "Adonis? You?" Bo-Gio smiled. Her eyes were bright and her teeth white. "After all, I rely on my face to make a living." "Heh." Chin Mo laughed. He reached out and pinched her face. He seemed to be testing the thickness of her face. There was a double meaning in his words. "Indeed, you rely on your face to make a living." The force wasn't painful. Instead, it made it easier for her to hug his waist. It was all a trap. Bo-Gio knew that, but in front of a beauty, her heart was itching. In the past, I only needed to guard against girls. Now, I need to guard against guys. Bojo looked up. She was still smiling. You are really a beauty that brings trouble. But Brother Mo, when you discuss tactics with Captain Xiao, don't have any other thoughts. Captain Xiao has a girlfriend now. It's illegal to destroy other people's relationships. Qin Mo listened to her nonsense with a serious expression. In the end, he reached out and pressed her wrist that was behind him. I think you are the one who has other thoughts. MMH. Bojo admitted it directly. Have I done anything to you? It hasn't been a day or two. She was caught again. Seriously, it wasn't easy to attack. Qin Mo lowered his gaze and looked at her face. He switched their positions and pushed her against the corner. He pulled her hand to the back of his waist. He was wearing a shirt on the inside and a jacket on the outside. With the jacket covering this area, even if Bojo really did anything, no one would be able to see it. Her hands were inside his white shirt. Under her palms were ribs and lumbar muscles that felt good to the touch. It was late autumn in Rivertown and the weather was getting cold. This kind of contact was just enough to warm her hands. Hence, he allowed her to place her hands on his back. But it was impossible to stop someone from moving. Qin Mo could only feel that the hand was like fire, running all over his body. When her fingertips came into contact with him, she felt a burst of anger. Qin Mo's Adam's apple bobbed. He lowered his gaze and pressed against her forehead. Don't move. His clear voice was low and raspy as it entered her ears. A wave of numbness overflowed from his heart. Bojo glanced up and saw his elegant and handsome face. Due to the influence of some things, his breathing was no longer as steady as usual. Even the corners of his eyes were a little different. He held her waist and brought her neck to his lips. Abstinence and excitement mixed together. Bojo knew that only she could make him like this. Chapter 17:28. She couldn't help but want to be close to him. However, he placed his head on her shoulder as though he was avoiding her on purpose. He was extremely reserved. Then he pushed her away, his gaze still unstable. Let's go. That was it? Bojo arched a brow, slightly unhappy. She lowered her head and looked at her fingertips. She felt that it was time to use the drugs she dug out from the Black Brothers on a certain Almighty. After all, they were going to Milan the day after tomorrow. Because they were going to face the National League. Hence, the training standards had to be high. Other than ensuring sufficient training, they had to rest well. They definitely didn't have time for a relationship. It wasn't easy for them to have a break today. No wonder Bojo had some thoughts. Anyway, they were going home. Bojo lifted her thin lips. Once they were home, there would be a chance for her to make a move. Qin Mo walked in front, the feeling around his waist still lingering. His deep gaze deepened and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. In the hall, it wasn't easy for there to be no keyboard sounds today. Zhao Sanpang felt that scheming Qin was very flirtatious today. What's wrong with your shirt? Didn't he usually dress neatly? He even said that if he couldn't even dress properly, he shouldn't come out. He had to pay attention to his image. They were a Chinese team now and they represented the country. Hence, even he didn't wear flip-flops anymore and dressed according to the rules. What was wrong with this fellow now? Today is a break. Qin Mo's voice was calm. Zhao Sanpang smirked. What has that got to do with your messy clothes? A break is considered private time. Qin Mo glanced at him. My shirt is wrinkled because Joe lifted it. Zhao Sanpang froze. F***ck. He was feeding him dog food again. Then why didn't you tidy it up? Qin Mo said slowly. You don't have a girlfriend so you probably don't understand. It feels good when your girlfriend lifts your shirt. That's why you purposely didn't tidy it up. Have you ever seen a couple in love like the two of you? The girl lifted the guy's shirt. Little Mo Bei was standing beside Zhao Sanpang, carrying her school bag. There wasn't any expression on her fair face. Almighty Fatty is always dealt a blow. Why do you still want to be abused by my master's wife? Zhao Sanpang thought. That's really hurtful. She caressed Mo Bei's head with her right hand. Don't say that, your master Fatty is an esports player with the most girlfriend fans. I have to pay attention to my image. Girlfriend fan. Little Mo Bei furrowed her brows slightly. The world is so strange. I thought everyone only looks at looks. Zhao Sanpang was about to vomit blood. Am I not handsome? Do you want to hear the truth? Little Mo Bei asked seriously. Zhao Sanpang paused. How was he supposed to answer this rhetorical question? On the other hand, Luo Luo laughed as she watched from the side. His gaze landed on the small figure before turning towards Bo Jiu. It's a pity. MMH? Bo Jiu raised a brow. When Luo Luo smiled, her long hair hung down. She was indeed beautiful. It would be a pity for Bei if the Supreme Alliance disbanded. A little. Bo Jiu chuckled. But she will come back one day. Luo Luo glanced sideways. Are you so sure? Does she not want to fight anymore? Chapter 1729. Luo Luo paused for a moment. You are thinking so far ahead? The competition isn't about one person. Bo Jiu glanced up. You have been through that path. You should know that it doesn't feel good to be ostracized by your peers. Luo Luo looked at the person in front of her. Bo Jiu raised her eyebrows. What is it? Nothing. Luo Luo reached out. You are too handsome. I want to pinch you. Bo Jiu stuffed one hand into her pocket. Feel free to pinch me. Luo Luo did pinch her. Why did this person know so much? Usually, she wouldn't even say a word. This was probably gentleness. Luo Luo turned her gaze back to the small figure not far away. That child's black hair was a little longer. It hit his eyelids and he was secretly mocking Master Fatty. Occasionally, he would free his hands to help them wipe the keyboard and carry water to drink. He never said he was tired. The bitter gourd juice they drank was made by Little Bei. Basically, during holidays, Bo Jiu would let Little Bei stay in the base. Other than the people in the team, no one else knew. That was because Bo Jiu paid for Bei's meals. It was the same for the plane tickets to Milan. Actually, every team in every country would have a reserve of newbies. They would bring them over to experience it during this international competition. Although the Supreme Alliance had disbanded. But Bo Jiu was his master. Her protective nature wouldn't change. How could her disciple not have what other people had? Also, during this period of time, everyone knew that Bo Jiu had been training Bei in other positions. Other than being an assassin, she was playing in all aspects. You are looking forward to Bei's return, right? Luo Luo laughed softly. She pinched that handsome face again. If not, there is no need to groom her like this. Bo Jiu leaned against the wall lazily without saying a word. Before she could say anything, she was pulled over. It was Qin Mo. Luo Luo's hand landed on empty air. Qin Mo pressed the person in his arms. His eyelids were half raised. He looked nonchalant, but when his gaze landed on Luo Luo, it was slightly cold. If you want to pinch a face, look for your Captain Xiao. Luo Luo glanced sideways and looked at the other person who walked over. Captain Zhao's face wasn't something that people wanted to pinch. Qin Mo had already brought her away. Luo Luo wanted to complain to Xiao Jing. Qin Mo is so petty, I can't even pinch little Spade's face. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jing glanced at her and said slowly, Do you think you're too close to Z? Luo Luo was stunned. Could it be that even he, Xiao Jing, was wearing a white coat and had an otherworldly aura? If you want to pinch my face in the future, pinch me. Luo Luo. After leaving the base and getting into the car, Qin Mo behaved differently. After holding someone's chin for a long time, his fingertips gently rubbed the place where Luo Luo had pinched. In the end, he frowned slightly. What happened between you and Luo Luo? Bo Jiu chuckled. Don't you know that she's my goddess? Honestly, Brother Mo, if I was a guy, you guys wouldn't be involved. Heh. Qin Mo chuckled. He suddenly leaned forward and bit her ear. Do you still want to be a man? Bo Jiu froze. She seemed to have gone overboard. Chapter 1730. When Bo Jiu heard that voice, she wanted to hug him. But recently, a certain someone liked to play hard to get with her too much. For example now. After saying that, He sat up straight and even tidied his sleeves. He looked as though he didn't want her to get close to him. But he was abstinent and noble. Bo Jio's heart itched. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. No matter what, she had to sleep with him today. The place they were staying in was Qin Mo's loft apartment. There was no need to get 2 more rooms. Husband and wife should maintain a relative sense of distance. It wasn't suitable to put this matter on Qin Mo. When he was young, he was used to raising a certain little Bo Jio. It was even more so now. This kind of idiot who liked to flirt was the most suitable to be kept by his side. At this moment, Bo Jio was deep in thought about how to use the drug on Qin Mo naturally. Even when Princess came to provoke her, she didn't care. Princess's big face was a little confused. He stretched out his claws to provoke her again. Bo Jio broke into a smile and took out 2 wine glasses. Then she picked up a bottle of red wine. The entire process was always done with a handsome look. Although Bo Jio's cooking skills weren't good. But she, who had infiltrated all the big nightclubs, was a professional at drinking. Of course, Qin Mo saw her actions. His gaze was a little indifferent, but his eyes deepened. He didn't show anything. Instead, he turned his head and continued to deal with his steak. Bo Jio naturally reached out and hugged Qin Mo from behind. I can help you cut the vegetables. Forget it. Qin Mo glanced sideways. Help me get the onions from the fridge. Bo Jio had something to do. She diverted her attention slightly. Her intentions couldn't be too obvious. When the 2 of them were in the kitchen. Basically it was like this. Qin Mo cooked. Bo Jio would help him by the side. Until a long time later. A little boy asked, Mommy, you don't know how to cook. Why are you always in the kitchen? This is called excessive waste of public resources. Bo Jio's voice was evil. What do you mean excessive waste of public resources? That's because you haven't learned the term, feast for the eyes. I'm standing here, of course, to admire your daddy's beauty. Hence, the little boy flipped through the dictionary that day. He felt that his mommy had some misunderstanding about the term, feast for the eyes. It was terrifying to use this word to describe his father. Of course, this was a story for another time. The little man hadn't come out yet. There is only 1 cat here. It wouldn't affect Bo Jio's naughty mood. Once the steak was in the pot and the aroma of the steak sizzled, she took the opportunity to pass one of the wine glasses to Qin Mo. It was the same when they were on 5th Avenue. Before eating the steak, he would drink a little wine. Cooking in such a leisurely evening would make people feel more relaxed. That was why she handed him the wine. Of course, Qin Mo wouldn't reject her. He gently swirled the wine glass, smiled, and took a sip. The corners of Bo Jio's lips lifted when she saw him drinking. Sure enough, if he wanted to trick him, he would have to do it in his daily life. Watch the fire. I'll go get the broccoli. Bo Jio didn't care about where he was going and replied, all right. They only needed to wait for half an hour. After half an hour, the drug would take effect, and he would gradually lose the strength to resist. At that time, she could do whatever she wanted. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.